My husband, Chase, and I had been married for 8 years. To everyone, we were the perfect couple. He was a successful architect, charming and handsome, and I was a graphic designer who worked from home. We had a beautiful house, 2 wonderful kids, and what I thought was a deep, unshakable love. But for the past year, something had felt off. Chase was working late more often. His phone was always glued to his hand, and the easy intimacy we once shared had evaporated, replaced by a polite distance. I tried to talk to him about it, but he always had an excuse. It was stress from a big project, he was just tired, I was being too sensitive. I wanted to believe him, I really did. But my intuition screamed that something was wrong. The little inconsistencies started piling up. A receipt from a restaurant I'd never been to, a scent of unfamiliar perfume on his jacket, hushed phone calls he'd end the moment I walked into the room. The final straw came on our anniversary. Chase had promised a special dinner, just the 2 of us. He called that afternoon to cancel, claiming a client emergency. I was disappointed, but I understood. I ordered takeout for myself and the kids and tried to make the best of it. Later that evening, while scrolling through social media, a friend's post stopped my heart. It was a group photo from a birthday party at a fancy downtown bar. And there, in the background, was Chase. His arm was wrapped around a woman I didn't recognize, and they were laughing, their heads close together. It wasn't a client emergency, it was a lie. That night I couldn't sleep. The image of him with that woman was burned into my mind. I knew I had to find out the truth, no matter how much it hurt. The next morning, after he left for work, I started my search. I felt a sick knot in my stomach, like a trespasser in my own life. I began with his laptop, which he usually guarded like a fortress. I guessed his password on the 3rd try our wedding date. How ironic. His email inbox was a treasure trove of deception. There were hotel confirmations for business trips to cities where he had no clients. There were emails from a woman named Alina. The messages were sickeningly sweet, filled with pet names and inside jokes. They talked about their special place, a little Italian restaurant I'd never heard of. They had a whole separate life, one I had no part in. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely use the mouse. It was worse than I had imagined. This wasn't a one-time mistake, it was a long-term affair. I found a hidden folder on his desktop labeled Projects. It wasn't architectural designs, it was filled with photos. Dozens of them. Pictures of Chase and Alina on weekend getaways, at concerts, kissing under a sunset on a beach I'd always wanted to visit. They looked so happy, so in love. He was smiling in a way I hadn't seen in years. It felt like a punch to the gut. The man in those photos was the man I fell in love with, but he was giving that version of himself to someone else. The pain was suffocating, but it was quickly replaced by a cold, hard anger. I had devoted 8 years of my life to this man, built a family with him, supported his dreams. And he had repaid me with this ultimate betrayal. I wasn't just going to cry and fall apart. I was going to confront him. But I needed more. I needed irrefutable proof, something he couldn't lie his way out of. I remembered the credit card statements. He always handled the finances, telling me not to worry about it. I found the online login information saved in his browser. As I scrolled through months of transactions, the story became even clearer. Weekly lunches at the same expensive restaurant, jewelry store purchases that weren't for me, 2 tickets to a Broadway show on a night he told me he was working late. The sheer audacity of it all was staggering. He wasn't even trying to be clever. He just assumed I was too naive to ever find out. My final piece of evidence came from an old, forgotten GPS tracker I had put in our family car years ago after a friend's car was stolen. I had completely forgotten about it. I logged into the app, my heart pounding. The history was a roadmap of his deceit. Frequent trips to an apartment complex across town, always during the day when he was supposed to be at the office. I looked up the address. It was Alina's. He had been visiting her multiple times a week, for months. That evening, when Chase came home, I was ready. I didn't greet him with a kiss or ask about his day. I simply said, "We need to talk." I had printed everything out. The emails, the photos, the credit card statements, a map of his trips to her apartment. I laid it all out on the dining room table, our wedding album sitting right in the middle of the damning evidence. The color drained from his face as he looked at the display. For the first time, he had no excuse. He couldn't blame stress or call me paranoid. The truth was laid bare in black and white and in color photos. He started to stammer, to apologize, to make promises, but the words were empty. The man I had married was gone, replaced by a stranger who had built a life on lies. "I know everything, Chase," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "I know about Alina. I know about the trips, the gifts, the lunches. I know you were with her on our anniversary." He sank into a chair, his head in his hands. He confessed everything. It had been going on for over a year. Alina was a junior colleague at his firm. He said it started as a friendship but grew into something more. He claimed he didn't know how to end it, that he still loved me and the kids. But I wasn't buying it. Love isn't deceit. Love isn't betrayal. Seeing all that evidence laid out didn't just break my heart. It also gave me an unexpected strength. I wasn't the sensitive or crazy wife he had tried to make me believe I was. My intuition had been right all along. The evidence proved I wasn't losing my mind. I was losing a husband who was never truly mine to begin with. That night, I told him to pack a bag and leave. The road ahead was going to be painful and difficult, I knew that. But as I watched him walk out the door, I didn't feel sadness. I felt a profound sense of relief. I had my proof, but more importantly, I had my truth. The evidence didn't just expose his lies, it set me free. My new life was just beginning. A life built on honesty and self-respect. A life without him. And for the first time in a very long time, I felt a glimmer of hope for the future. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've been through something similar, know that you are not alone and your feelings are valid. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more stories. See you next time.